6. And this lesson is called Maintaining a Heart for Practically Solving Problems and Patiently Solving Problems and Proactively Solving Problems. Okay, this is Unit 6. I just want to ask a question for you to think about. But do you realize that being that you are in a sphere of ministry that is super spiritual, that you have an enemy who hates everything that you do? Do you realize that every single moment of your day that there's an enemy who seeks to devour and destroy and to kill and to steal the ministry that you have and the impact you have and the effort that you have? All right. So if that's the case, then you know that you have an enemy who exist to create conflict in your ministry. So the first question that we're going to ask is this: will conflict occur? As long as you're serving Christ and as long as you're devoted to Christ and a disciple of Christ and a minister unto Christ, you will have conflict. Jesus said that in this world you will have tribulation. All right, you will have trouble. Sadly, some of that trouble happens within the local church. All right, so I'm just going to prepare you. If you are a pastor or a student pastor or you have a leadership role within your church, there may be times where conflict comes from within. There may be parents that dislike your decision making. There may be parents who have conflict with other parents or with other students. Sometimes students have conflict with the leaders. Sometimes students will have conflicts with students. Sometimes leadership may question your way of ministry. Sometimes, and I've had this before, sometimes parents will question your story and the validity of your story. And if you have a testimony that speaks of a life that wasn't pleasing to God before you came to Christ, sometimes that story can rub parents the wrong way. What I'm saying is, anything that the enemy can find fault in, he's going to try to bring to the table, and he'll use whoever he can to make that happen. Especially when it comes to the very ones that you love in your ministry, the students and the parents in your ministry. So the answer is conflict will occur. But you've got some options. You've got to ask yourself, how will I react? Sometimes we try to push the issue by doing nothing at all. That's wrong. You shouldn't do that. Sometimes we pretend like sometimes we pretend like it never happened to begin with. Other times, when conflict occurs, we try to please everybody and we try to make everybody happy. And you know that that's not possible. Or the best way that you can react to a conflict in your ministry is to pursue reconciliation. And I'm with you on that. Pursue reconciliation. Jesus has given us in Matthew chapter 18, Matthew chapter 5, James chapter 5, Galatians chapter 6. Jesus has given us a way out of our conflict. And the way out of the conflict is to reconcile with those who have wrongs against you. Okay? So I need you to remember that, all right? Conflict's going to take place, but you've got a choice on how you react. I want you to ask some questions when pursuing reconciliation. So I'm going to go through these with you for just a moment. Ask this question: what is the purpose of reconciliation? If you read Matthew chapter 18 and James chapter 5, the purpose of reconciliation and the point of reconciliation is so that those who are at odds with you will be restored. They'll come back to Christ. They'll love you in the Lord again. Another question to ask: if a student, and this is vital for students, if a student comes to you and they are at odds with another student, ask them this question: have you actually went to that person first? Sometimes in ministry, people will skip the biblical process of discipline. There is a right way of doing it. Jesus said that first you start one-on-one, and then if that doesn't work out, then you send a couple more with you for validity of the witness. If that doesn't work out, you bring them before the church. If that doesn't work out, you kick them out of the church. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 opportunities that Jesus gives for reconciliation to take place. Okay, but one question that I encourage you to ask is this: have you went to that person first? Have you went to that person first? Remembering to ask, have you went to that person yet? Well, a lot of times if they're not willing to go to that person, the conflict's never going to be resolved. A third question to ask is this: how is your heart? How is your heart? Sometimes when there's conflict and it involves you, whether it be between a parent or another leader or another student, um, if you're like me, you can get in the flesh really fast. And if you're in the flesh, you're going to handle a situation maybe not in love or care, but in anger or frustration. And so you can't reconcile with a brother or sister, or you can't see other students reconcile if you are upset or if you are in anger or if you are in frustration. Okay. Another question to ask too is this a big deal? Um, Sometimes with students, they bring immaturity to the table. You have way more to worry about than he or she made fun of me because I called her shoes. I don't know. I made fun of her shoes, or I made fun of his clothes, or he looked at me funny, or she looked at me funny. I mean, we could go on and on. He broke up with me for another girl. These are scenarios that, to me, um, it's not really a big deal. It's not a life or death situation. This is not something that's going to destroy the youth group or destroy the church. But when a student brings it to you, it's a big deal to them. So you try not to play it off as not a big deal or writing it off as small or insignificant. Um, could also help your integrity too in helping them with future problems. But understanding too that if it's not a big deal, if it's just drama or hearsay or he said this or she said that, or I don't like them just because I don't like them just because they have more friends than I do, or they're more popular, or they have a better social media account, or they got a better car. You know what I mean? You have to ask: is this a big deal? Am I truly gonna? Do I need to get involved? And that's the last question. Why am I involved? Ask the student that too. Why are you taking the time to ask me to help you in the situation? What do you want to get out of this? What do you want to see as the goal? If reconciliation is not that goal, then you probably need to remove yourself from the situation. Reconciliation has to be the goal for you as the minister. Otherwise, you're wasting time. When you're reacting to conflict, um, uh, there's some things that you can do. Okay, one, the first is to offer um, offer resolution. Um, when you're offering resolution, you are making sure that you're making sure that they understand. I want to see this problem dealt with. So offer resolution. Listen. That's a big part too of being a counselor. You have two ears for a reason, right? One mouth. So when a student comes to you or a parent comes to you and they're trying to open up, sometimes they don't want to hear your opinion or they don't want to hear what you would do about it. Sometimes they just need to vent and they need you to listen. Um, Listen to both sides too. One of the dangers in student ministry is taking the side of one student over the other, taking the side of one family or the other. You can't do that. Listen to both sides. Give everybody a fair chance to speak up, especially in conflict. Stick to the facts. In Baptist churches, hearsay goes a long, long way. Make sure that you stick to the facts. Don't go off of the testimony of one person and this is what I thought I heard, or this is what I thought I saw, or I think they said this, or I think they do that. Um, you have to know this is true. Okay, so stick to the facts, and then honor and glorify Christ in your resolution. You know what I think when it comes to conflict, if we would do it biblically and we would seek to honor Christ and exalt Christ in the conflict, I think the conflict would be resolved far quicker. The problem is that we in our flesh get involved and we try to handle things our way. We need to honor and glorify Christ in the resolution. The last thing is this: above all else, be a leader. There are three C's when resolving a conflict. Number one is to lead with compassion. Okay, lead with compassion in handling the conflict. All right. Um, you know, make sure that, or I'm sorry, lead with commitment to handling the conflict. That is your goal, and make that your goal. Make it very clear when the sides come to you and they've got a problem. Make it very clear. We're gonna work this out. We're gonna fix this. Lead with compassion with confronting the conflict. Remembering that you're working with students. These are kids. Okay, these are children, and the reason that they do things that children do and they act like children and they respond to hardship like children is because they are children. So let's lead with compassion, all right? Understanding that they will make mistakes and they'll make more mistakes. Do your best to lead with compassion. The last C is to lead with commitment to secure all sides, all questions, all stories of the parties involved. Commit to make an impartial decision. You make the biblical decision. You make the right decision. You make the God glorifying decision. Lead with commitment to secure everything so that the conflict is completely resolved. Okay. And I know this is one of the harder lessons, but the reality is in student ministry, um, there are going to be hardships and there are going to be trials and there's going to be conflict. But you as a minister need to know how to handle it right. Okay. One of the benefits of being in student ministry classes at Fruitland, the campus there in Hendersonville, is that we get a chance to talk about handling conflict. And sometimes students will ask questions and they'll they'll ask me scenarios and things like that. Unfortunately, I can't do that in a lecture style like this. But what I can do is what we're going to do for our discussion board this week. For our discussion board, I'm going to give you a chance to ask questions about handling conflict, or I'm going to give a chance for you to talk with other students about ways that you have handled conflict in the past. And I might paint a scenario or two and see how you would handle it. But I would also like for you, if you have any questions for me when it comes to answering on how to resolve conflict in your student ministry, I'd be honored to be able to give some pointers there. Okay, unfortunately, I've got some experience in handling conflict. Okay, and I've done some things the right way and some things the wrong way. So I'll be a bit transparent. But God bless you all, and this is the end of our course of study for Fruit 102 online. I will come back on next week with a short video thanking the class and giving you some direction for the final exam. But God bless you. If you have any questions, make sure that you email me. I'll do my best to stay in touch. Okay, everybody have a great rest of the week.